He's trying to ruin our republic. He's trying to torch it. What more evidence do we need on a day-to-day basis? This madness, masked men, not even identifying themselves, no warrants, terrorizing communities, people dying.
Which brings me to California Governor Gavin Newsom. Respectfully, what are you doing? You're the governor of the state of California in the United States.
What happens when someone starts a public feud without realizing how intense the response will be? Gavin Newsom took a shot at New York City, and StephenASmith fired back with a reaction that quickly grabbed attention online. The response was loud, personal, and instantly became a major talking point across social media. What started as political commentary quickly turned into a viral moment that had people across the country debating every second of it. So, how did one political remark lead to such a massive public reaction from StephenASmith? That's exactly what we're about to break down.
Not down with Gavin Newsom because my issue with Gavin Newsom is like, listen, you look great in those blue suits. You're very articulate, very smart, very quick-witted. I love how you've been trolling Trump because I thought that was necessary, in order to compete with Trump. But I can't ignore the fact that you're number one in unemployment, number one in homelessness and poverty and all of this other stuff and the price of the affordability issues in California. I can't ignore all of that. I can't ignore the fact that there's no way I can see you winning an election with some of the things that have been happening in the state of California.
If you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support truly means a lot. From the moment Gavin Newsom stepped onto the national stage, he developed a public image built around confidence and strong media presence. Many political observers have noted that he often presents himself as someone aiming for a much larger role beyond state politics. Over the years, Newsom has consistently carried himself with the energy of a politician focused on the national spotlight, and that perception has only continued to grow.
Donald Trump wants another election. You think for a second you want... I have 24 Trump 2028 hats. His folks keep sending me.
And you think he's going to run again?
Don't give me. Who spends $200 million on a ballroom at their home and then leaves the house? So this is serious, guys. This is serious.
So it'll be Newsom Trump in 28.
No. This guy doesn't believe in free, fair.
But in recent months, that political ambition collided with one of the most outspoken voices in American media, turning the situation into a major public debate. On his program, StephenASmith didn't just disagree with Gavin Newsom. He delivered a sharp and highly critical response that quickly gained traction online. The exchange rapidly spread across social media, cable news discussions, and political commentary channels, becoming a widely discussed moment across the internet.
Why are you over in Davos, Switzerland, talking to folks and speaking negatively about the president of the United States? What am I talking about? Listen to Gavin Newsom talk about Donald Trump today.
Did it stand out to you that he said Iceland multiple times when he was talking about Greenland?
And that every time a windmill turns, it costs $1,000.
What unfolded wasn't viewed by many people as just another political critique. The exchange quickly escalated into a heated public confrontation that was difficult for audiences online to ignore. To understand why StephenASmith's response gained so much attention, it's important to take a closer look at Gavin Newsom, his political record in California, and why some of his recent actions and statements have faced increased public scrutiny.
Crockett has been on this air, or invited on this show for 4 months. AOC has been invited on this show for 4 months. Gavin Newsom has been invited on this show for longer than that. Props to Hakeem Jeffries. He's a friend of the show, always welcome on here. I like that man. I respect him. Chuck Schumer's been invited on this show, hasn't shown up.
Giving space to criticism from multiple perspectives, Gavin Newsom's time as governor of California has been defined by major policy ambitions, as well as ongoing controversy. His administration has influenced debates around homelessness, housing, environmental regulation, and government leadership, earning both strong supporters and vocal critics. Some critics argue that California's progress under Newsom has also come with significant challenges and public frustration. For commentators like StephenASmith, that record became a bigger topic of debate once Newsom began speaking more openly on national and international political issues. StephenASmith built his public career around passionate commentary, direct opinions, and an outspoken communication style. Whether discussing sports, entertainment, or politics, he is known for expressing his views in a bold and unmistakable way. So when Gavin Newsom appeared at an international event in Davos and criticized Donald Trump in front of a global audience, Smith strongly pushed back. He argued that there is a major difference between political disagreements within the United States and presenting those conflicts on an international stage before foreign leaders and media outlets. According to Smith, public political disputes involving American leaders should be handled carefully, especially when discussed in front of a worldwide audience.
Being candid and open about his feelings about our president on United States soil. To go over to another country, Switzerland, to go over there and to be in the presence of other European leaders speaking against the president of the United States.
The commentary wasn't polite or restrained. The exchange became a highly public verbal confrontation that made one thing clear. In StephenASmith's view, Gavin Newsom had crossed a serious line politically, and Smith responded forcefully. However, Smith's criticism didn't emerge in isolation. It came during a period when Newsom and California's leadership were already facing intense scrutiny from critics across the country. One of the biggest issues repeatedly raised has been homelessness. Critics argue that despite major state spending initiatives, homelessness in cities such as Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego has remained a serious challenge. The state's cost of living has also become a major point of debate. Housing affordability continues to place pressure on many middle-class families, with rent and home prices often remaining significantly above national averages. Critics frequently point to strict regulations, limited housing supply, and high construction costs as major factors contributing to California's ongoing affordability concerns.
California's top Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom is speaking out against his own party. Newsom criticized the party and implored fellow Democrats to take accountability for their losses and called the party's current brand, quote, toxic, end quote. Newsom appeared on Real Time with Bill Maher and said the following, quote, Democrats, we tend to be a little more judgmental than we should be. We need to own our mistakes. We need to own what's wrong with our party. Part of the problem with the Democratic brand is that we talk down.
Critics argue that Gavin Newsom's efforts to reduce zoning restrictions and encourage higher housing density have not provided enough relief for many residents facing financial pressure. For some Californians, the rising cost of living has continued to overshadow promises of economic progress and innovation. High taxes and increasing energy costs have also become major points of criticism. Detractors often describe California as a state where economic opportunities appear increasingly difficult for average residents to access, especially compared to wealthier households. Public safety has become another major area of debate. Some critics claim that criminal justice reforms supported during Newsom's administration created concerns about leniency and contributed to declining public confidence in certain communities. Supporters, however, argue that the reforms were intended to address fairness and long-term systemic issues within the justice system. Questions about Newsom's leadership have also come from figures within his own political party. David Axelrod publicly criticized what he viewed as Newsom's strong focus on building a national political profile, suggesting that media visibility and political ambition had become too central to his public image. That criticism gained attention because it came from within Democratic political circles rather than from political opponents alone.
My personal belief is that the political career of Gavin Newsom is in peril, if not flat out over. His presidential aspirations have been eviscerated. There is no way he overcomes this. No way. And in regards to Karen Bass, to say nothing You can come and speak out, but that video will live in infamy.
Amid growing criticism surrounding Gavin Newsom, StephenASmith's response was aimed at more than just a single speech or political moment. Smith questioned whether Newsom's decision to criticize Donald Trump on an international stage was strategically wise, especially while California continues to face major challenges at home. Smith pointed to issues such as affordability, homelessness, immigration debates, and the overall cost of living as problems he believes deserve greater focus. His argument centered on the idea that state leadership should prioritize local concerns before engaging in highly public international political confrontations. Throughout the exchange, Smith framed the issue less as a disagreement over ideology and more as a debate about priorities and political credibility. He argued that Newsom should remain focused on governing California rather than using global appearances to amplify political messaging. Smith also strongly criticized California's affordability crisis, linking rising living costs and economic pressure to leadership decisions made during Newsom's administration. His comments resonated with viewers who feel financially strained by housing costs, taxes, and everyday expenses across the state.
Past people, end quote. Newsom recently launched a new podcast called, quote, This is Gavin Newsom, end quote. The California governor hosted conservative guests like Charlie Kirk and the aforementioned Steve Bannon. Newsom also found common ground with the right on the issue of transgender athletes competing in women's sports. He called these athletes' participation, quote, deeply unfair, end quote. Bravo. Bravo. I mean, bravo. I'm so very touched, Gavin Newsom.
Some observers viewed StephenASmith's confrontation with Gavin Newsom as highly dramatic and designed to generate attention. However, even some of Newsom's supporters acknowledge that California continues to face serious and complex challenges. While Newsom has promoted policies focused on environmental leadership, renewable energy, and large-scale reforms, critics argue that the results have not always matched the promises. California's energy infrastructure continues to face scrutiny during periods of heavy demand, and the state's high-speed rail project has repeatedly drawn criticism over delays and rising costs. At the same time, speculation surrounding Newsom's possible future political ambitions has fueled even more debate. Some political commentators believe his growing national presence and frequent media appearances are part of a broader effort to strengthen his position within the Democratic Party ahead of a potential future presidential campaign. Supporters, meanwhile, view those appearances as part of his role as a high-profile national political figure.
Say whatever you want here. As a governor from the opposite side of the aisle of a state in the United States on American soil, fine. But I'm one of those people, when we go somewhere else, it's America first. You know, our problems, our problems. But we ain't taking dirty laundry outside. Now, I know that sounds juvenile. I get that. Very simplistic in the eyes of a lot of people. But some things are worthy of being.
Critics argue that while California continues to face persistent challenges, Gavin Newsom appears increasingly focused on building a national political profile rather than concentrating solely on state-level issues. This tension between political ambition and governance has become a central theme in public debate. StephenASmith specifically targeted this dynamic in his commentary, arguing that Newsom prioritizes high-visibility political moments that generate headlines, rather than focusing on the day-to-day responsibilities of governing. Smith also connected these broader political critiques to ongoing issues in California, suggesting that unresolved challenges have contributed to public frustration and declining trust in leadership. From his perspective, the core issue was not ideology, but accountability and results. He further criticized Newsom's decision to publicly confront former President Donald Trump while speaking on an international platform, calling it an example of misplaced priorities. In his view, such actions risk shifting attention away from domestic concerns that directly affect residents of California.
I like Gavin Newsom. I think the brother looks the part. He looks presidential in them damn blue suits, no doubt about it. He's sharp as a tack. He's smart as hell. But on far too many occasions, when he was spewing out facts, it was rife with emotion. Instead of addressing the facts that the right was throwing in his direction to debunk anything that he had to say. But we forgot to mention that to Bill Maher on Real Time.
This was not a single soundbite or passing comment. It was a sustained, forceful critique delivered with the intensity that StephenASmith is known for. This segment struck viewers who expected a standard political discussion, instead presenting a sharp and direct challenge to both leadership choices and public strategy. Rather than focusing on personal attacks, the commentary centered on accountability and the real-world impact of decisions made by Gavin Newsom, particularly how those decisions affect everyday residents in California and beyond. At the same time, Newsom continues to have strong supporters who view his record differently. They point to California's economic strength, its leadership in technology and innovation, and its policy responses to major challenges such as public health and climate issues as evidence of effective governance. Supporters also argue that many of California's problems are structural and long-standing, making them difficult to attribute to any single administration. From this perspective, engaging in national and international political discussions is seen not as distraction, but as part of influencing broader policy debates that affect the entire country.
Of California that you would say that. Why didn't you add that you were the one doing it? Because that's exactly what the hell you were doing. When you talked about the right, when you talked about conservatives, when you talked about conservative folks out there and what their principles were and how they may not have been for transgender athletes competing in sports, how they may not have been for, for open borders, how they may not have been for sanctuary cities. Didn't you question their humanity?
Both sides carry weight, and both perspectives are part of the broader public debate. What StephenASmith's commentary highlighted, amid criticism of Gavin Newsom, was a wider frustration some viewers already feel about political leadership and expectations. That includes a demand for visible, measurable results alongside strong public communication and national presence. The discussion also reflects how modern media, politics, and public perception now intersect more aggressively than before. Leaders are often expected to manage governance, public messaging, and media scrutiny simultaneously, and failures or perceived missteps in any one area can quickly become amplified in public discourse. In the end, this moment illustrates a broader reality of today's political environment. Public figures are continuously evaluated not only on their intentions or messaging, but on outcomes, priorities, and how their decisions are perceived when placed under intense public attention.